Hello and welcome to the She Reads Romance Books podcast, the ultimate show for romance book lovers looking for the best books worth reading. I'm your host, Leslie Murphy, and in each short episode, I share my favorite book list of recommendations so you know exactly what to add to your must-read list. Join me as I explore the romance genre and have fun collecting book boyfriends along the way, because life is better with a love story. Okay, welcome readers to the She Reads Romance Books podcast, where today I am talking with a very special guest because every year I put together one of my most popular book lists on She Reads Romance Books, and that is my most anticipated new romance books of the coming year. And when this author's new book, Left of Forever, was announced, it instantly made my list because I just had to have it. Left of Forever is finally going to be releasing May 20th, and here to talk all about it and more is romance author Tarah DeWitt. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, first off, I have to say and tell you how much I loved Savor It. It was one of my favorite books of 2024. I adored Sage and Fisher's love story, and I think Fisher is one of the most amazing and vulnerable heroes that I've read in a really long time. So thank you for that story.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, but reading that story, two characters totally jumped out at me while reading it, and just their few times that they were shown, right? And they were Wren and Ellis, and you're finally giving us their story in Left of Forever. So to jump in, can you just at least start us off and tell listeners a little bit about what Left of Forever is about?
Yeah, absolutely. So Left of Forever is featuring two characters that were in Saber It. When I started writing that book, I've been pretty vocal about this, but I've never had side characters jump out at me so quickly and so fast. I've previously was pretty against the idea of writing like interconnected stories because my brain wants to go in a million directions, and I didn't love the idea of being tied down. But in creating Sage and Fisher, but specifically Sage, thinking about this character that was just so generous, and wanted to be valuable to the people in her life that she cared about so much. I kept thinking of like what she could give to like her brother and his ex-wife. Like she took on their horse and then all of a sudden they just kind of jumped out at me. So Left of Forever is their story. They have been divorced for 5 years. They have been together. Before that, they've been together since they were teenagers. They had a baby when they were still teenagers, and they went on to just kind of go through some tough stuff in life. And I think that they let their roles in other people's lives and sort of take center stage, and their marriage suffered for it. And this is the story of like how one sort of chance thing kind of opened their eyes to that and ripped them open and made them vulnerable again. And then they sort of choose to go on this road trip. Well, their son gets into college. So they're taking their son to college and dropping him off. And Ellis convinces Wren to take a road trip on the way back with him and do some, extra stops to see if they could make something work between them again. I try to talk about it without giving away too many
I know
spoilers.
it's a little hard, right? And I'll try
Yeah.
not to do that with my questions. I thought really hard about it. Some
Thank
maybe, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So you didn't set out once you wrote Savor It to write this story, because I was like, man, did she plan on this, or did she hear from readers like me that were like, oh my gosh, I now need this story, but they just
Well,
popped to you as well, like us?
yeah, it will when I started writing it and those characters jumped out right away, I went, "Oh, okay, so I am." And I am gonna write a story for them. And so I did know right away. And then after that, I kind of I knew what I wanted to set up for, other characters and stuff too. So I had to sort of just figure out exactly what could happen to still tell Sage and Fisher's story the way I wanted to tell it, but where I could drop little pieces of lore to tie in later, which I like. I write all of them like standalones anyway, but there's little things that carry over from those books that I think have a little more emotional impact if you have read Savor It.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Which I would say this could be read as a standalone, but you just need to read Savor It because it was so
Thank you.
good. But yes. So this is obviously second chance romance. Is this your first time writing in this trope or had you looked?
No, I have one other book, but it was such a different sort of second chance romance, The Co-op, and they are very much enemies. So, this was such a different sort of approach. In The Co-op, they renovate a house together that they inherited. So there's definitely a lot of symbolism there as far as breaking each other and breaking walls down and rebuilding that back up. But in this, I think especially because they were married, there's a
Right.
whole it's just there's just a different level to it. Even just what I mentioned before about the roles they end up playing in everybody else's life when you become a parent, when Ellis he raised his siblings, so he was already in that role. They've spent so much time being these very self-contained people,
Mhm.
uh, and that they almost again, it led to the dissolution of their marriage because instead of, like, turning inward and, like, fighting through things and stuff, they've had to be good. They've had to be good parents. They've had to prioritize these other people's and these other roles in their life so much
Right.
that it sort of drove them away from each other instead of, you know, them communicating through it and working through it. So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and I love how you self-proclaim that you write romances filled with big feelings. And I think that's totally true.
Thank
Co-op's on
you.
my TBR list. I haven't read that one yet, but I've read most of the others. So I'm curious, what big were the big feelings that you wanted to evoke then in this story? Because there were definitely big feelings.
Oh gosh. I think definitely longing and yearning and those are the biggest feelings. I don't I don't look at their story and think of like regret for I think that they again are these two they're so self-contained that they want to be good at their roles. They want to be good to each other. So it's just so much longing and yearning and passion. I mean this is definitely my most physical like spicy book, but for a reason. I feel like I approach every story knowing that it's going to be different for every couple, but specifically because of what they went through in their marriage and the physical aspect of that, I really wanted them to get to reclaim that, and it felt right. I think that they're just these people that really want so badly to do well, even on their road, even on their journey, like, going through this, like, "Okay, well, we only have a limited number of days on this road trip. What can we do?" Like, they sort of make rules to talk about the bad things that happened before, but, like, again, I think the trick with Second Chance is focusing on why now, and do they have chemistry now, and how does this reflect how they're gonna go forward in the future? So you don't wanna just live in the past relationship.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that's where the biggest feelings center on.
I totally felt that longing for
Yeah.
sure, and that's why I think I was, like, desperate for the story because I was like, "Oh my god," you just know that they're soulmates, and yet,
Yeah.
like you said, it just sort of got to this point that it ended,
Mhm.
but yet you know they're just meant to be together, and I think that's why I also appreciate your books because you write, as you said, romance is centered on perfectly imperfect characters, which I love. And you could see that sort of in both of them. But what did you see then as Wren and Ellis's sort of imperfections that led them to that point where they lost themselves in their marriage and ended it, but now they're here they are again.
Well, definitely, I think that they're so not selfless. Selfless is the wrong word, but they've had to prioritize other people in their lives so much that it's almost become like a detriment. There's a conversation in the beginning of the book between Ellis and his brother, Silas, that I really feel is an important reflection on Ellis as a character, like where Silas is kind of like, "You're unbelievable. You finally get to a point where you decide something, and then you just think, 'I'm gonna jump in and fix it all myself.'"
Right.
And even when it came to, like, Ren and Ellis go through an infertility thing at the end, he wants her so badly to get what she wants in life that he doesn't communicate his own desires. He doesn't communicate what how he's feeling about everything. And so I think that their flaws are that they ha haven't taken the right, like, agency they have in for themselves in their lives. They haven't prioritized themselves and their feelings, and, like, you can see it even in the beginning with how they kind of struggle to communicate, and then they recapture that chemistry and that the ease of it, but they sort of stay too self-contained sometimes in life, and instead of being you trust somebody, the people you love, to love you in spite of your imperfections. Like, we think that we love our people in spite of their imperfections, but these characters struggle to expect that those people will do the same for them, right?
I love the line where at one point he says that he's been living his life in pencil because he
Mhm.
doesn't think that he can get shit right the first time.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that really sort of like says a lot about his
Yep.
character, right? And yet he's such the strong guy, like you said, helping to raise his siblings. He's the single dad at such a, and I was just like, man, I feel for this guy.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much to love about him, but what do you love most about him, or what do you think readers were gonna love most about him, or he's gonna be, like, our favorite book boyfriend of this year?
Oh, man. I think I think that I was a young parent. I wasn't, that young, but I still think in hindsight I was too young, and I remember, when you recognize sort of the flaws, like we become adults and we sort of see what went wrong in our own childhood and stuff. And I'm a child of divorce. So, like, writing this in a way was a little bit healing for me, writing these two people that had so much shared between them that were like, they closed off so that all these other people they loved in their lives could still all be together. They still do some holidays together, and they still do all that. I love my mom and dad, but never. That could never have happened. So, I think that specifically how that applies to Ellis is his determination
Mm.
to be good, to be a good parent, to be a good brother, to take care of these people in his life. I think that that was something that I just really loved about him, especially, like, when he starts to recognize, that about himself and how it maybe, you know, hurt him in a way and prevented him from acting sooner, how he was living his life in pencil because he just wanted to get things right. He wanted to do things right. I really that endeared me to him. And that was, though there's a letters aspect to this book and a epistolary aspect to this book because I wanted to find a way that they could sort of be ripped open in a vulnerable and like vulnerable in a safe space that where the people in the life they still share between them wasn't involved. But ultimately, I also wanted them to actively choose to move forward. I didn't want it to feel like life gave them this chance
Right.
and it was just fate. I love when my characters really drive things forward and are the ones that are choosing things. I don't like when the plot and when life is just happening to them. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
got off topic for that
No,
answer.
no, I totally agree. And I think, like, he had to put up these boundaries to protect himself, like, he wouldn't eat her,
Yeah.
you know,
You wouldn't eat the scones,
wouldn't eat
yeah.
the scones, right? Or he wouldn't even go in the bakery because he just had to have those limits even though they would all have, like, celebrations, like you
Mhm.
said, together and be there for their son. And yet, every time he called her bird or
Yeah.
proclaimed she's still a bird, I mean, my eyes would, like, tear up. I'm like, "Man." Tara must know what she's doing in these moments of this book because they hit it like just the right time. And it made him
Mhm.
seem like, gosh, like he's still claiming her. I just love that. Like, did you do
Yeah.
this on purpose? Because I was like, wow.
Oh, yeah. Well, and there's an aspect to there's a little twist on that too that you find out, he's called her Bird for a long time. And, yeah, I absolutely did. I think because even when it came to them getting divorced, I know that a lot of my audience probably won't be able to identify with that. So I just had to this show his character so much that, like, even though he felt he had a claim on her, he honestly, I think that them letting each other go, they thought they were doing something better for the other person, like, because
Right.
they're not making each other happy anymore.
Right.
Um, and I think that, yeah, it's not that he ever stopped loving her or she ever really stopped loving him. They have so much love between them because of the life between them. But sometimes it is a very real thing and real aspect of love. I know tons of couples just that ended up getting divorced during the pandemic. That it's not that they didn't love each other. They ended up, kind of letting their relationship fall apart.
Well,
It's
I was
that,
going to say, I think a lot of people will identify with this
yeah.
because you didn't. And I think that's what I really loved about it too, is that there wasn't this major dramatic event necessarily that tore them apart. I mean, yes, the infertility stuff, but yet I think it's probably true of a lot of divorced couples where they just got to the point where the bad stuff sort of won out, even
Hmm.
if the love was still there. And I think at one point, I think Ellis too said it, like, our brains are just programmed to remember,
Yeah,
like, the bad for
they are.
self-preservation, and I think that will really it resonated with I think with me, but I think I loved that about their story because sometimes in romance, it's gotta be this big, like, "Oh," that breaks
No,
them up
yeah,
for second chance, and then they come back, but you could just understand, like, this is just how life happened to them, and then they just didn't have it in them to fight then, but now maybe they do 5 years
yeah,
later. Yeah. Oh, love that.
exactly.
Okay, so now Wren, our
Yeah.
heroine, right? I loved her, but what do you think readers are gonna love most about her?
Oh gosh, I love Ren so much. I think that her desire to be part of something that's like bigger than herself is reflected in almost everything she does, like down to even not just her role at a bakery where she, like, has this titular role in her town, but you see her interact with people in that town, how she is with Indy. I think that even when it came to, like, her desire to be a mom again later in life when that didn't and how that didn't happen, I think that's reflected there. She cares so deeply about her community, with her family, not just her town, but her family, the people around her. Even when they take a cooking class, she ends up and she's in a group of people, she ends up kind of through Ellis's eyes, you see her sort of taking control of that and leading people through it. I just think she's somebody that I would want to be my best friend in life. I love her finding her perspective. I love her self-control but, like, also her indulgences. I love her self-awareness. I loved that, even there's something that she does in there where she's like, "I love making deals with myself like this. If I eat the spinach with this, then I get to have my this later. If I do this, because I'm constantly doing that kind of stuff and then not sticking to it. I just totally admired that about her. I love how this applies to both of them. Really love how much she wants to do things right and well. And
Yeah.
again, I think that something that I've really enjoyed capturing about Spoons and these characters so far is that you don't have to have a big life for it to feel like this story that, you know, you
Right.
want to be told, I guess.
Right. Well, I've read Funny Feelings, Savor It, and now Left of Forever. And what I've loved about all of them is that, and then I've just mentioned this before, is that all the characters do seem just so relatable to me. Like they have real troubles, real concerns, like happenings they're trying to process and navigate through while they're sort of giving their heart to somebody else. Right. And I think writing those real relatable characters is just your superpower as an author.
Thank you.
Like, at least that's how I read them. Like, is that something that you purposely seek out to do in your writing, or is it just how you write your characters that they come across that way? Or
Oh, I mean, I love that you say that. I can't deny that when I wrote this book, I really thought, I don't want to say I thought, oh, this is probably gonna be my flop. But I really thought like, okay, well, these characters are mid-30s, they're divorced, they had a kid in their teens, and they went through an like they go through some very specific things that would be very hard to relate to, especially for a lot of the audience that I've already had,
gotcha.
but I think that I like writing characters that have gone through something specific or had a specific upbringing and finding what's relatable about that because it just kind of unites us in this like experience that we all want we want to all have the right to love and be loved in spite of and often because of our imperfections. You know, when I read characters that have a specific job in the literary world or whatever, I can't relate to that aspect of the job, but I can relate to this person's desire to be seen or like and to not feel small and to not feel like there are things in every journey that we go through that unite us as being beautifully human and flawed.
Right.
And so there's something in all of it that we can identify with. So that's kind of what I'm going for. I'm glad that that's what
Yeah.
you picked up. I don't always I don't necessarily set out to have it be that way,
Mhm.
but especially when I'm writing them, I haven't always gone through this exact thing, so I have to find the way to make it relatable to me, so that it feels honest.
Sure.
So
Hmm.
and then I think that the byproduct of that is that it feels relatable to other people too.
Yeah. No, for sure. Absolutely. And I'll say that you broke me in that last chapter with Silas's speech. Like, oh my gosh, it was so good. And
I
so
love
I
him.
think while the whole Bird family is sort of peripheral in a way to the story, like I just loved them all in both books, really. But what do you love about this family? Are we going to get more of them? Because
Yeah.
they're just good people and all different, right? And how they relate to one another too. But this was just a really good family.
Oh, I love them so much. Yeah, you are gonna get more of them. I think that it's safe for me. I'm allowed to say that the next book is about Silas, and so and again when I started writing Saber It, and then I knew that I wanted to write a Wren and Ellis book, I immediately went, all right, well, there's probably something here for Silas too, so I better make sure that I have an idea of what I'm going to do with him, and so I did, and I'm very excited for his story, but I love this family because they antagonize each other. They aren't perfect to each other, but they so deeply love each other. Again, with how they call each other out, but how they keep some stuff to themselves. I think it's the most realistic like family dynamic that I could come up uh, with while having them ultimately be, like, semi-functional.
Mhm.
I don't know, I hate the word dysfunctional families because I think that every family, even, like, the ones that just really deeply love each other, I think they are
Right.
there's a healthy amount of dysfunction, though, and that's kind of what we've got going with them. But,
Yeah.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
all very
They're all
individual
human,
characters.
and the love for each other comes out, I think,
Yes.
in all their interactions, whether they are calling somebody out on something or whatever. I thought that was a really great aspect underlining this whole story and how Ren has always been a part of that family and continue to be even after their divorce, which I loved. So I don't know if this next question would be a spoiler about how you open the story with the two horses, right? How, I don't know the right literary term, like an analogy or something, but what sort of sparked that idea of how to open the story?
Well, I feel like specifically this story has been kind of brewing in my mind for a few years. The very first seed that was planted for it was a few years ago. I was manually filling out some paperwork for a field trip or for something. I think it might have been a school sport for one of my daughters, and my husband was like, "Huh, that's your handwriting? I haven't seen it in a few years." And I kinda thought about that, and we've been together since we were 17, and so I, was kind of like, "Wow, I guess if you don't have a very distinct handwriting," and nowadays, we don't handwrite much to each other. You are all every form for school and all that that I fill out online is a manual, a writable PDF,
Right.
or just, everything's
Right.
online. And I just kept thinking about that, and I'm like, "Man, but I kinda love letters." There's a letter writing or, like, a journal something aspect in every single one of these books too, which is there's something with sage, there's obviously a big thing in this, but also we have I'm from California, we have huge fires out here on the West Coast every year,
Mhm.
and, campaign fires when multiple, crews end up going to these big fires from other locations, schools and churches, and what different community center type things will put together care packages and send them. And I've been in one of my daughter's classes before when we were putting together care packages, and one of the students in there, his dad was working on the fire, and I kept thinking, like, how cool would it be if his dad came across this? And so there were just little pieces I kept picking up of this, and I can't when we watch the news stories and people are searching for their pets that got out and or were missing, it drives me insane. I am Wren in that aspect where I won't sleep. I'll worry about these strangers' pets. I'll want to know what happens. And often now with TikTok and social media and stuff, if you find a way to track down these stories, you can. But there have been stories that I have no closure on still for over the years. And I want to just use it as, again, I think that life got Wren and Ellis down when they were married. But I ultimately, the reason they fell apart was because they chose not to communicate, not to work through things. It was a matter of choice. It was still them, letting it fall victim to apathy or what have you, no matter what life threw their way. So I
Mhm.
really wanted life or fate or whatever you want to call it to sort of just throw this chance their way. So Ellis picks up this package and it happens to be from Wren because she's again like kind of going crazy. She saw something on the news and she wants to know what happened. And I thought, what justification could I give for him to sort of write her back? But it turned into this like very, safe way for them to exchange vulnerabilities. And at first, when I was first writing it, I- it wasn't working because Ellis, like, she knows right away that it's Ellis, or he tells her right away. And they just, are exchanging over the letters. And I was talking to all people who my husband's not a reader, and I hate to give him too much credit for things, but I was talking to him about this, and I was like, I have this idea where he doesn't tell her it's him at first, but like, I don't want it to feel deceitful. I don't want it to feel, and I also just like, is it too easy that this happened this way and it's just this, chance thing? And he was like, well, if you think about it, there's all sorts of stuff that has to line up, and every time anybody meets in any way, it's always this chance thing. It's about, like, you actively choosing to do something with it after, and I was like, "Oh, shit." You just made it all make sense, and so then I was like, "Alright, he has to actively choose to cut the letters off, open himself open himself up to, like, how can we start a conversation in person? How can we make this justification in person? I want to know that she would be open to this." And he suffers a little longer for it. And I think
Over.
you find out this is a mild spoiler, but you find out that like he would have let her go because she seemed so uninterested in all the little ways he tried to like reestablish a connection. That's where there's a very like a divide, I wouldn't call it a miscommunication. Again, a lack of it.
Right.
But he suffered for months longer, and now he finds that she's taken up this journaling exercise and he sees something on the counter, and once he knows, oh, there is something still there because she would be interested in opening up something, like, with me, I'm gonna, like, pursue it actively. So once he sees that, he's a dog with a bone, he's not gonna let go of it, and so
Yeah.
then he finds the reason to, like, and I liked putting them on a road trip specifically because it took them away from all these other roles and all these other things. Yeah, and, that, again, they sort of let get in their way before and put them on into this scenario where they really got to dig into all of it. But,
I
but
loved the road trip piece
yeah,
because I think that forced proximity was so important, and I
yeah,
didn't see the twist at the end, which I won't say, but I thought that was fantastic. But, because
yeah,
I think if they stayed, like you said, in their small town, like, with everybody, like, having an opinion or watching and seeing, it would have been a completely different story and
yeah.
different for them. So I think that was genius, like, having them have
Well, and
these.
I love the to employ the small town stuff in doses that feel like they could, be realistic. I don't like when it feels too, I don't like when it feels too corny and too
Right.
contrived, and I didn't want them to be pressured by other people. I really wanted them to actively choose to do this. Again, I really love to, like, I want all the justification to be there, but I really wanted them to be the ones driving this and to sort of I wanted to give them that agency.
Yeah, and you said earlier, this is your more spicy book. So I will say, as
Yeah.
a romance book lover, I'm really glad that you didn't have them hold out to
Yeah.
reconnect physically for very long. And I'm not just saying that for like the steaminess, but I think it was part of what they needed. But I liked the spin that you sort of put on it and the caveat that they sort of set for them being intimate on the trip. Try not to give spoilers on that. But so
Mhm.
I thought that was really important, and you did, and
Thank you.
that was really well done. Yeah.
I won't lie. That was an aspect of the book that I was worried about because I didn't want it to feel gratuitous, but I really and when it came down to it, I really felt it was important. And again, it was also another opportunity for me to show how, again, self-contained these people are, because even when they're letting go, they don't all the way until kind of the end. They are so determined to do this right, to do things right, that they are like, well, if we don't do this, then it's okay. Or if we
Right.
just do things that we haven't done before, it's okay. But and so, it was important to the character work. It wasn't just plus it, but yeah, in a way, they're in their mid-30s. I wanted them to get to be hot. I wanted them to I love all the books I read about even new adults in this and that aspect of life and everything. But I really wanted to write these full-grown people that have very important roles in everybody's life that they're in, but get to just have this sort of indulgent, lovely journey with just each other and feel, you know, pleasure and hope and all that.
Because they tried in those 5 years, right? And I love that Wren
Mhm.
specifically tried
Yeah,
dating, being with other people. I don't think all other romance authors would do that, especially for the heroine, which I really love that you did. They'd be like, "Oh, no, she just,"
yeah,
but then to see them and how it just, even physically, they're meant to be, right,
yeah.
for each other. I love that. Writing it and looking back over it, do you have a favorite scene from the book that just sort of sticks out for you?
Oh gosh. I mean, I had so much fun writing. There's one scene that is I think knocks it like helps it share the rom-com category, but, for me, I did enjoy writing the cooking class scene. It's absolute madness and chaos, but it's hilarious. It's based on a true story.
Oh my
Not I mean,
gosh.
I don't it I went to that cooking class. I went to that cooking class, Leslie, and it was,
Oh my
the again, mild spoiler, but the capsaicin burn victim was me.
oh, oh my god.
And I was sitting in the corner. I just touched my eyes and had it on my hands.
Oh,
So we'll make that
that sounds
um,
horrible.
a specification. Yes. But I was sitting in the corner. I had to sit on a stool in the corner of that class and could not open my eyes all the way for hours. I had ice cream on my hands and tears and mascara and everything streaming down my face. And I was like, I'm so putting this in a book. I am just so going into a book. I was in agony.
Oh,
It took hours for it to go away. So,
wow.
important tip, if you're gonna cut jalapenos or cut spicy chilies, you don't necessarily have to wear gloves, but put olive oil on your hands before or wear gloves.
I was
Don't
like, "Ooh, I bet." I'm like, "I never knew about ice cream." I'm like, "That's gotta be true,"
Yeah.
because I'm sure that she researched this because I never
Oh,
would have
yes.
guessed, but
Well,
wow.
like, when people on Hot Ones, you see them eating very spicy wings, they have milk.
That's
There's
true.
it sort of breaks down the acid. I mean, some people say it doesn't help. It helped my hands. It was helping me.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was
Did you
misery.
have the
But
same I was gonna say, did you have the same, like, cast of characters in your real life
not
cooking class?
quite. I
Okay.
was with a group of my friends
Okay.
and our husbands. It was a bunch of different couples.
Gotcha.
But they did the same thing where they made you split up. So you were with other friends and other people. They put you on state. We were on different stations. We had a little air fryer and everything. But yeah, a few of my friends that have read it, they were like, "Is that me? Is that me? Am I the wine stuff?" No, I didn't. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. But for me, again, I don't mean to be too artsy fartsy about all this, but I might as well own how much I think and analyze about all these things. But for me, that scene was really symbolic of they're getting to this point where they really are gonna being there for each other. But and they then all of a sudden life comes in and it's chaos and it turns into a miserable situation for Ellis. And after that, he has this hesitation where he really just wants to be like left alone for a minute and his pride and all that. And Ren's kind of like, no, let's, fix it and work it out. And so, yeah, it was more than just entertainment, I guess. Although I do find that scene extremely entertaining. For me, it was symbolic
Yeah.
of them showing like, okay, you're right. Like, we'll work through this. And even because life does that, it humiliates you. It
Yeah.
puts you in these positions that are so humbling and embarrassing. And especially when you're married, when it comes to things that like I never thought I would have to like examine for my husband and fix, or we'd have to talk about life humbles you and you become so vulnerable to this person that if you can't allow it and you can't welcome it, uh, it- it's going to make life miserable if when you learn to welcome it and you learn to like just be vulnerable. It, it it's fun and it can be funny and it can be you know
Yeah.
heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time.
I think that's a really good word for this book, symbolic, because I feel like looking back on it, oh yeah, there were so many scenes that you wrote that made the story fun and enjoyable, but yet also had this really good point to them,
Yeah.
which I was like, wow, how'd she do that? She's so good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I just spend so much time with them that
Yeah.
it's always very hard. By the end, I'm one of those people that cuts so much as I go. I try really hard. I love my books being under 90,000 words. I've read books that I love that are over, 100,000 words before. I really want I really like when books almost feel like drugs. Like you sit down and you're like, you have to keep going. Oh my God, how am I already at 30%? I guess if I keep going, I really like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
I try so hard to not put anything in there that isn't going to make them grow in this scene, make it like get you one step closer to here or be important in every way.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, it's always interesting figuring out what kind of situation I can put them in that exposes this or brings them closer to this or breaks down this. And yeah, that. It's always fun for me to kind of
Yeah.
figure out. I mean, not always fun. Sometimes it's miserable, but by the end of it, it's fun.
Well, I love these characters. I love the story. I
Yeah.
love spoons, but the cover. Oh my gosh, I love this cover
Thank
so much.
you.
Did you have like a say in it or?
Oh yeah, I'm so annoying. I'm sure they hate me, but no, so for me, I have no problems with the illustrated cover trend at all. But I am somebody, I love historical romance. I think that step backs are beautiful, and I'm not ashamed of the fact that this is a romance story because I know what lessons in life you discover when you're, again, learning how to love and be loved. And so I don't think anything less of these stories for being romance. And I don't mind the covers looking romantic. Even though they're illustrated, I want them to look like adults. I want them to be, I love seeing them embrace. I want it to feel like, to give a vibe for the book.
Yeah.
So even though somebody said that the cover almost felt campy because of it almost felt like a historical, and he's in his shirt and he's got the little pirate earring and stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
Perfect. I love that. That's great.
Love it.
That's exactly, what, so that's what I'm gonna embrace from now on. And yeah, I was like, I want you to feel like you almost need to look away. Like I better give
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
because I get so in these characters' heads that it is so intimate, and it is, I want the covers to reflect that, and they do such a good job by the end. At first, some of the sketches were them in lovely poses, and they were beautiful illustrations, but they were just smiling and stuff, and I went, "No, that it absolutely does not feel like them. It doesn't work."
Yeah.
They are full of yearning and longing, and I want her to look like almost relieved that she's being embraced, and him to be like finally and desperate. Like you look really close and you can see the lines on his forehead and his eyes are almost slightly open, like he's
Ugh.
like so can't believe that he's finally holding her again. I love it. I love
I
it.
love it. I know.
I have I
It's hard to get past his mustache looking at the full face because I'm just like,
yeah.
ooh, like
Yeah.
very Tom Selleck-y. But I love the colors, like all of it. So it's
Thank you.
fantastic. I
No,
can't wait.
it's so hard because I am such a fan of the mustache, and it's really hard to not give I can't do the same thing over and over again though. So
Can you? Why not? No, that's
I am on the mustache revival campaign though.
I love it. I love it. Well, we have a few more minutes. If you don't mind, I'd love to keep you on and ask you a few questions about Tara the Reader, if you don't mind. But if there's
Yeah.
anything else you want listeners to know about Left Up Forever or where they can find you online, feel free to share that.
I am most active on Instagram, and that's kind of the only one I can feel like I can maintain. So I'm at author Tarah DeWitt. My website is tarahdewit.com. And yeah, I'm always, I'm pretty
Awesome.
good about updating stuff on there at least. And my newsletter, which you can sign up for through my website.
And there you have it, folks. My interview with Tara was so much fun. It was probably one of my longest interviews with anyone because I think we could have talked all day about Left Up Forever and Wren and Ellis in this fabulous second chance romance. So I hope I've convinced you to just go out to your favorite retailer, pick up your copy, and I'd actually love for you to circle back and let me know what you think of it. Either send me a message on social or send me an email at leslie@shereadsromancebooks.com. Would love to hear your take on this book, which I loved so much. If you want to hear even more from Tara, feel free to join the She Reads Romance Books book club, where I post the video interview and extended video where we talk more about why she loves the romance genre, her favorite books, her favorite authors, and so much more. So you'll have access to that extended video interview when you join the She Reads Romance Books book club, which you can do right away at shereadsromancebooks.com/book club. Thanks so much for tuning in. Can't wait for you to tune in to the next episode. But in the meantime, happy reading because life is better with a love story.
That's all for this episode of the She Reads Romance Books podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and found some new books to add to your TBR list. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. It really helps me reach more romance book lovers like you, and I appreciate your support. If you're a book boyfriend collector like me, then you'll want to join my email list so you never miss a podcast episode or a new book list. Just visit shereadsromancebooks.com/join and sign up today. As a thank you, I'll instantly send you my list of top 10 book boyfriends that will make you swoon. Trust me, you don't want to miss this list. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.